This week I was reading Batman issue number 129, written by Chip Zdarsky, and it's a great book. I've really been enjoying it, and I haven't been collecting a lot of Batman stuff as of late. I feel like there's been kind of an oversaturation of the market with just everything Batman that comes out, every issue, every trade paperback, every big, event that is put on by DC seems to be headlining Batman in some way because they know that he sells, which is understandable. However, there was an interesting thing within the book that I found, and it was an ad for variant covers that made me roll my eyes. So if you guys see this, it says, "Celebrate an unforgettable decade with DC 90s rewind covers." And you have all these different, Wonder Woman, Action Comics, Harley Quinn, Batman vs. Robin. And it looks like they're going to be doing this for the month of November. Here's some more metal covers and foil covers and stuff. And basically a checklist of any books that you can get with these variant covers. But when I saw this, it got me thinking that I don't think DC truly understands why the 90s were so important to people. And I don't think the DC offices right now, maybe the writers and the artists, I can't say for sure, but the marketing departments, the people who are putting these ads in these books and stuff, like the editors and the higher-ups at DC, I don't feel like truly understand their product, what it is that they have to offer. And even if they did, they wouldn't really know how to promote it or sell it. For example, right now, they continually are just doing more Batman stuff because they see the cash flow from Batman, but they don't understand why Batman is important to people. I don't think they understand why Batman works for so many people. And it's the same thing with these covers. The reason why people now, especially comic readers that are a little bit older, of the older generation, anywhere between 30 to 60 in that range, I feel like that older generation of comic readers is looking back on the past of the 80s and the 90s and really kind of wishing for that era of books to come back. So DC has probably heard this, and Marvel too, and we'll get to Marvel in just a second. But DC probably heard this and said, oh, well, the fans want us to go back to the 90s. Okay, well, let's do 90s variant covers, because we all know how well that went in the comic book market when it literally almost crashed the comic book retail market at that point. There were so many different incentive or variant covers that it completely blew out of the water what people thought of when variant covers first came to the scene. And so when people think of the 90s, they think oh my God, it's an oversaturation of variant covers. So in my mind, when I say I like the 90s iteration of comic books, it was the significance of art. It was the importance of artwork. It was the concentration on storylines and character developments. For me, the 90s was a moment in time that really started to bring out the best artists possible, that had this new, almost realistic, detailed side of things. You had your Mark Silvestris, your Jim Lees, your Michael Turners, your David Finches, your Joe Mads, your Stephen Platts. These dudes were legends. Your Todd McFarlanes. These guys were paving the way for artists of that era and really making a name for themselves. And that was why, for me, the 90s stuck out almost immediately, because that art just pops. And it really shows just the talent of these individuals. But not only that, it was matched with writers like Chris Claremont. Todd McFarlane was writing a lot of his stuff, and it was extremely good. You had Jeff Johns on some of these books. So you had writers to match artwork as well, and they went together perfectly. And that's why I think the 90s sell, and why I think DC and Marvel should be understanding that that's why the 90s sold as well. Not because of some variant cover that looks a little flashy or, has the same type of style artwork. Like, those are just exteriors. That's just a variant cover. Sure, it might sell 1 or 2 extra copies, or maybe for the speculator market, they're going to say, oh, well, I got to have this cover. I'm going to resell it on eBay for $20 instead of $5. And, you know, there are going to be resellers and they're going to be speculators and stuff, and that's fine. That's sometimes what drives the market as well. But to think that this is an answer to sales, that's not it. It's completely not it, unfortunately. So now that we've kind of looked at DC, hey, Marvel is not without fault as well. So I have here Marvel's Rise of the Midnight Suns pulled up. This was a Marvel comic that came out in 1992, and it was originally published in Ghost Rider number 28 with penciler Joe Kubert inking, it looks like. But right off the bat, look at this first page that we're introduced to. Like, this is some next level art, some fantastic action, but the theme, the colors that are introduced as well are dark, they're gritty. It's like almost this like horrifying looking comic. It's got a lot of dark inks portraying this kind of darker tone to the book. And the first thing we see is this woman who has unfortunately passed away. And Ghost Rider says, "Murders, you cannot escape my vengeance." Fantastic opening page. Just like seriously sticks out and just gets stuck in your retina because it looks so great. And he finds these robbers who have robbed this poor old woman for her purse, and they've killed her by doing so. Like, truly some evil dudes. And so Ghost Rider goes to find them and take their life as well. He says vengeance will have its due. And look at this like 2-page spread. Just gorgeous. So much detail, so much ink. Like the theme that is portrayed here is like true horrifying, action, which is perfect for a Midnight Suns book when you have characters like Ghost Rider or Blade or something. But then if we look at Midnight Suns issue number 1, Rise of the Suns, that was published like a few months ago, maybe 2 months ago or something. Cool cover, I'll give it that, absolutely. A few characters that we know. Ethan Sachs is writing, Luigi Zagaria is the artist on this book. But right away, like, I open this and I'm already disinterested. It's a Christian, of course, it's a Christian kind of extremist that is burning books and is trying to kill people for his god or something like that. Like, okay, cool, we get it. And then we get into Strange Academy? We're at a school? Everything's so bright. All the colors are like... This looks like a kid's book. This looks like a teenage rom-com book or something. Like, why is Blade here? Like, Blade should never be in this setting. Like, he should be in the dark, like in shadow. Why are we getting these characters in this like children's school? Nothing about this screams Midnight Suns, and yet Marvel, by putting this brand on there, by putting this title, this logo on there, they think, oh, well, everyone loved this Midnight Suns. Everyone really enjoyed this, Rise of the Midnight Suns. Let's do it again. Let's repurpose it. Let's reboot it, and let's do this Midnight Suns. It'll be for a modern audience. Yeah, let's do that, because everyone loved the 90s. Everyone loved the 90s. Like, Marvel has no idea, at least I don't think, Marvel has any clue that the Kubert, family of doing this type of artwork and a great storyline. That's why this book was so successful. Not whatever this is. Not this. It should never be this. And so that's why I say that, I don't think personally that DC or Marvel understand what it is that they have, and they don't understand how to promote that to other people. They don't understand how to sell that. If they did, we would be getting things that we've seen before, but not for the sake of nostalgia. Hey, let's just throw a Midnight Suns title on there because people people know Midnight Suns. It's nostalgic. Hey, let's just throw a cover on a book. We'll just kind of throw it on there. We won't add anything to the story or get top tier level art or top tier level, writers on there. We're just going to throw a cover on there because people remember that. People remember the 90s, right? And it's this whole nostalgia bait thing that just becomes so demeaning and just gratuitous. So I kind of liken it to this. Top Gun Maverick came out months ago, right? And it broke the box office. We're talking billions and billions of dollars. And so at some point, people are going to look at that money grab and they're going to say, what made Maverick so great? Why do people love this movie so much? And why did it make so much money? And I fear that people are going to say, oh, because it's a remake or because it's a sequel of the 80s movie. And it's like, no, you dumb idiots. That's 100% not what made this movie good. It was the acting, it was the storytelling, it was the cinematography and the directing, using practical effects, using the jets in the actual air, having those dudes in the air flying around. So many great things, having the story not being weighed down by a certain message or a certain, political plot point. It was just a good story for the sake of a good story. And so I think if Hollywood were to see this movie, see the success, they wouldn't see any of that stuff. They would just go, sequel, 80s movie, Top Gun or whatever, and Tom Cruise. Okay, we'll do it again with another movie. We'll make a sequel to some other 80s film. Wouldn't that be great? And it's like, no. You're completely misunderstanding the point of why that movie was great. You're completely misrepresenting why that movie made so much money. And that's the same thing with Marvel and DC. Like I said before, we're getting comic books that are recreating and rebooting or kind of reinstilling this idea of nostalgia into its books without actually having the heart, the passion, or the reasoning behind why these books were so great during that era. So what do you guys think? Were you big into the 90s books? And if you were, what made them great to you? Was it those variant covers? Because there were a lot. So at least from what I remember. But yeah, it's all kind of all become a bit of a joke at this point. But I would love to hear what you guys think in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.